Now that the model's done, what I need to do is lay these parts out flat. Before I do that, one thing I like to do is to just quickly create something that's going to represent the stock. So if I do that, I'll go ahead and pick this plane, and I'm just going to sketch out a rectangle. So I'm creating a box feature, and we'll make this 96 by 48. And then for the height, we'll give it that value of ply. And then we'll say we want to create a new body. And what this is going to do is just give me that reference piece to line everything up against. Now I want to take all of these parts and lay them flat. So before I do that, right now we've been modeling as bodies. And what I want to do is I want to take all of these components, bodies, and I want to make them into components, which is a distinction in Fusion. So I'm going to select all the bodies from the tree, right click, create components, and now I could come in here and rename them. Now that we have components, what we want to do is we want to create joints. I like this just because it makes it really easy to move things around and lay it out in a flat pattern the way you want. It's not a totally necessary step, but I just think it's a pretty quick and easy way to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this stock, right click, and say we want to ground it. That's going to basically fix that one piece. Now we're going to come in and create a joint. And what we'll do is we'll pick the face that we want to line up. So that face on the top, and then we'll match that to this face on the stock, and we can set the type to be planar and then flip it, and now it's essentially lined up with the stock. And then what's nice about that is then I can take it and I can just drag it around and it'll stay in that plane, so we can get things oriented the way that we want. You know, what I like to do is to just to make it easier is to just hide the one and then create the joints for all the others. So I'm going to hide this from the tree, and now we'll go ahead and start creating all of the rest of the joints. Now that we've applied all the joints, we can just drag these things around in the plane. One thing that makes that a little easier is you can right-click on the stock and make it selectable, unselectable. If you do that, you see the little red crossed out circle. That means that it's not going to be selectable, which makes it easier to just pick all of these parts without that getting in the way. And you can just grab all these the parts from the bookshelf and drag them around to lay them out on the sheet. If you want to do something more, if I want to rotate it, I can actually, the best thing to do is to pick it from the tree. That way you have the component selected, and then hit right click and say move. And now you can do things like rotate it, and you'll notice that it snaps to 90. You can still drag it around while you're in this command, and then hit OK. And then maybe the last one I want to do is take this guy, and again, I'll grab this and say move, and we'll go ahead and rotate this one as well, and then move it into place. And now I've got all the parts laid out flat the way that I want. Now that we've got this all laid out, what I want to do is apply dog bone fillets to all of these internal edges. So we've got a nice little add-in that somebody wrote, Casey Rogers, which allows you to create dog bone fillets, and we can either apply this to each edge individually, so I could pick all these edges, or you can actually just pick the bodies, and if you pick a body, it's going to find all of the vertical edges that are inside corners and apply it to all the edges. Another thing we're going to do here is just put in our parameter of cutter. This way, if I change my mind about what cutter size I want to use, it will adjust the dog bones accordingly. And we'll just go ahead and hit OK. And this is going to take a couple of minutes to process, so just be patient. If you're processing like this with 150 something edges, just be patient. And here we can see the result of the dog bone fillets being applied to all of the internal corners. Pretty nice. Okay, the last thing I want to do is create a little bit of clearance in these pockets for the blind tabs. They're currently modeled exactly flush. So I'm going to do a press pull, and then I'm going to pick all of these faces. And then we're just going to offset them down just a little bit. So you see I can just drag this as much as I want. I want to make sure you do a minus 0.04, whatever clearance you want. But the important thing is to put in the minus sign so that you know it's going in that direction.